Hello, students, and welcome to the lab to go ahead and cover the pressure, temperature, dependence of a gas. Okay, so our goal is we're going to go ahead and take a gas and we're going to explore what happens when we change the pressure on that gas. So what we're going to use for this is we're going to use a device that's an absolute pressure sensor. And what this is going to do is this is going to go ahead and tell us how much the pressure is. And then what we're going to do afterwards is we're going to go ahead and heat a vial of air. So in this case, we're going to heat a vial of just room temperature air. And we're going to track what happens with the pressure as the temperature increases. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and heat our water to 65 degrees. Then we'll heat it 5 more degrees to get it to 70 degrees. And we'll keep going onwards like this until we reach 90 degrees. So since we know that's what's going to happen, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set and make a chart where we're going to go ahead and have our temp. And we're going to go ahead and start with room temperature. And then we're going to have our pressure. The reason that we're going to do this is because, it's just one more data point that we can go ahead and use. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and grab a thermometer here. As it's trying to focus. And so looking at it, it looks like the temperature is 22 degrees Celsius at room temperature. And now we can go ahead and also work with our pressure sensor right here. So right here, we have our vial that we're going to go ahead and use. This is a 250 milliliter round bottom flask. And what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and stopper it. And the stopper, you're going to want to really jam it in there. So as the temperature increases, the temperature is going to increase inside the jar. So you want to make sure that you really jam that in there. And then it has this cable, and this cable is going to go all the way to our absolute pressure sensor.
Good morning, teacher.
All right, so once we have it plugged in, we'll go ahead and plug into our measuring device, and our measuring device right here is going to go ahead and measure it in absolute pressure. So we're going to click, we show, and then we'll go ahead and go to page 2, which will give us our kilopascals. And we're going to hit record here. And what this does is it records how many kilopascals we got. So at room temperature, it is 101 kilopascals, which should be about what we expect, because we expect that at room temperature, we would be at 101 kilopascals, because that's just about 1 atmosphere. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're still waiting for this to go ahead and heat up here. So it'll take just a moment as we allow this to go ahead and heat up to 65 degrees. And we're going to try and keep it right there. All right, so we're back now. And the reason that we're back is that we're starting to get to the point where we're at about 65 degrees here. Okay. I know it's hard to see, but we're right about 63, 64. And what we're going to try and do now is we're going to try and make it so that we maintain this temperature as it gets to 65 degrees. because what we're going to do is we're going to dip our flask in the water, and we want to have the air inside of our flask heat up to 65 degrees to watch that pressure dependence. And in order to make sure that it doesn't fluctuate too much and that we can get an accurate measurement, we need to try and keep that temperature right at 65 degrees. Okay. And as you can see, we've already risen just a couple of degrees as it goes up. So usually when we're within the last couple of degrees, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and turn off our hot plate. It'll finish heating the rest of the way, and then we can go ahead and turn it back on when it's time for us to reheat. So we're going to go ahead and dip in our device. It's now exactly at 65 degrees. And as you guys can see, as it's heating, it's going to continue to get higher and higher. We're already at 105. And we're going to allow it to heat for a couple of minutes here. We want that heat to go ahead and go all the way around the jar. We'll dip it in to make sure that all the air ends up getting heated throughout. Keeping a mind on our temperature, and right now our temperature still is at 65 degrees. Give it at least a minute here, perhaps two. We'll give it 2 whole minutes here. All right, so it's been about 2 minutes here, and as you guys can see, our pressure ends up being 113. So we're gonna go ahead and record that over here. We had a temperature, and we can go ahead and put temp 1, 65 degrees Celsius, and we had a pressure of 113. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and turn on the heat now. And we're going to heat it back up to 70. So now we're going to go ahead and go up to 70. And once we do, we'll go ahead and do our next measurement here. Now it shouldn't take too long to get to 70 because we were already at 65. And in this case, we're going to go ahead and leave it in so that we don't have to lose the heat and have it sit back in there for quite as long. Just as a reminder, especially if you are holding it down in there to make sure that it gets the heat, you need to make sure that you keep your measurements the same throughout. And then this is also going to be one of those times that if you end up noticing that you end up getting it to 71 degrees or 72 degrees, and then you make your measurement and you think, oh no, I've messed it up a little bit, that as long as you are making sure that you are measuring the correct temperature, this experiment doesn't really matter so much as long as you record the right data. This should be an experiment that as long as the data is set and good, you should be good to go. Okay. Alright, so as you guys can, I'd like to say that you guys can see, but the temperature is slowly rising here. We're about 1 or 2 degrees away from 70. Okay, now it's keeping it in view. Alright, it's about 1 degree away from 70. This angle looks a little weird. Let me try and get the same angle I got. Okay, so we're gonna turn down the amount of heat. Not gonna turn it off all the way this time. And I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that this stays dipped in. Okay, we still haven't reached all the way to 70 yet, so I'm giving it just another second here. And it is dipped in here. Notice that at this point I'm pressing down on the actual thing to keep it in there. Here, we now reached our measurement. It's been in here for a good little while, and we're still at 70. So I'm going to go ahead and record it. It is now 1:16. I'm going to turn my temperature back up, and then we'll go ahead and come back for the next measurement. Okay, welcome back. We are just about at 75 degrees. So we're going to go ahead and dip it again. In just a second, I'll pull this back up to show you guys. Okay. It's heating through, it's heating through. Now, one quick note on this measurement. This measurement I came back a little bit late. And because I came back a little bit late, my temperature is a little bit higher, which means that I'll have to go ahead and just record that. Right now, it looks like I have a temperature of 77. So I'll just need to make sure that I record that in my document here. Okay, and we're going to record. And it looks like it's right in between there. So we're going to go ahead and say that it's 118.5 because it struggled. So here, 77. Because it looks like it was right in between there. Okay. Now I turned it down just a little bit here because I was going too quick. I'll be right back with the next measurement. All right, so at this point, we're sitting right here at 80 degrees, or actually we're at 81. We come over here and we can see that our pressure now is at 120. So we'll go ahead and record that pressure now at 120. Then 120. Turn our heat back up. Okay, we're only going to keep it at about 100 because it's been heating relatively quickly. And then we'll be back for the next measurement. All right, we're coming back. We're going to do the measurement that's near 85. And right now we're at about 84. It's going to continue to heat through, so I'm turning the temperature down just a little bit. Going to dip it again. And as you guys see, the pressure is going to increase again because we're heating the entire container now. Okay. And we're waiting just a little bit more. It hasn't quite reached the 85 point yet. It's still struggling. Struggling, I say, struggling. We're at the point now, whenever I put in the round bottom flask, it actually even cools down the water a little bit more. So right now we're still at 84 and we haven't gotten our measurement just yet. Gonna let it go for a little bit more, looks like. All right, so we're just about at our 90 degree mark, okay? Which means that we're gonna go ahead and dip it in and start heating. We keep an eye on our temperature and an eye on our kilopascals. So you can see it already got to 122, so, quick. This is exactly what we expect. As the temperature goes up, the pressure should go up on the gas as well. Gonna put this like there for right now. Debating if I should have just recorded it that entire way. Our temperature is still increasing, so we haven't gotten there yet. I know some of you are the type that you would want to make sure that it's exactly at the right temperature. So we're going to make sure that it's right at 90 degrees for our last one. After this last one, you want to make sure that you go ahead and turn it all the way off. And then we're going to go ahead and take the beaker out, the actual round bottom flask out, and when we take it out, we're going to go ahead and set it aside, and we're going to leave it all attached so that the pressure inside will go ahead and slowly dissipate. We want it to slowly dissipate because right now that cork is under greater pressure, so it has a tendency to go ahead and shoot on out, and you don't actually want the cork shooting out towards you. Okay. So we're just about at 90. Oh, come on, get the last little bit. Okay, so we're at 90, and it looks like our pressure has settled at 123. So we're going to go ahead and record on this 123. Okay, so it looks like it flipped over as soon as I said that, of course. Alright, so it looks like it's set for 124. Is it going to flip again? We're right there. Yes, no, no more flipping. There we go. All right, so we are going to set it at 124. And I let it dip back out of the solution, which is why it cooled back down. So we're going to have 124 for the kilopascals. And at this point, we are now going to be able to use this data to go ahead and solve for the rest of our problem that we have. For cleanup for this, what you are going to want to do is you're going to go ahead and take your round bottom flask. You're going to set it just down on the table. You're going to leave this right here. The round bottom flask, you're going to leave it on the table. It will go ahead and cool down. As it cools down, the pressure in there will dissipate. As you guys can see, we've already gotten it down back to 118 kilopascals, 117. And this just further goes to show that, as the temperature begins to drop, we're going to see a drop in the pressure. Okay, at this point, you guys should have enough data that you should be able to do the lab report. And until next time.